Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 220. It looks like the Department of Justice and the SDNY is finally doing their job, folks. We have news out today that the Department of Justice has officially requested that Andrew be made available for their investigation. Now, we know that the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family previously said that he's willing to speak with whatever investigators are relevant to the investigation. Well, Big Mouth, here's your chance. And for all of you clowns out there who still think that Andrew is an innocent man, shut up. Nobody wants to hear it. You're not edgy with your comments, all right? This guy is as guilty as they come. And the second he sits down in front of a seasoned FBI interrogator, this man's going to be in big trouble. And I'll tell you what, folks, this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. I think that they might have other cooperating witnesses already that we don't know about. If this bombshell is getting released and they're formally requesting to speak to Prince Andrew, you would think that the SDNY and the prosecutor's office, they have their ducks in a row and they have enough evidence to make a request such as that. For those of us who have been following this case for a while, well, we know that the evidence has been there for quite some time. It's been very apparent. And now the pressure is on, though. After the Netflix documentary has dropped and so many other crucial pieces of information have come out in this case, the prosecutor's office knows they have to act now. And all of that is because of you people out there who have been following this case and who have been going crazy because there's no justice. So the only reason we're at this point is because of the interest you folks have shown in this case. And the only reason the prosecution is even acting, in my opinion, is because the pressure is now on. But at the end of the day, does it really matter what spurs them into action as long as the action is taken? As long as prosecutions are chased? As long as indictments are dropped? And now, can we please see the bazooka? Can you just slap all of them with RICO charges, please? Because the rest of these co-conspirators, they must be fit to be tied right now. If the Justice Department has requested to speak to Prince Andrew, that must mean that the other co-conspirators are also under pressure right now. At least that's what you would think, right? From the outside looking in, when you analyze something like this and you start to break it down. Whenever you have a criminal operation and you start seeing some of the people at the top or some of the more prominent people start to get the scrutiny, that usually means that someone went Joe Valachi in the lower rung of the organization. Now the question is somebody speaking with the FBI? Is somebody cooperating? And in turn, have they provided information that has given the FBI and the Department of Justice the green light to make this request? I don't know. I don't have that information. I don't have any, inside information on anything like that. But common sense says, and history covering these kind of cases say, well, there is probably a cooperating witness, and it looks like somebody is going Joe Valachi. The article tonight is from the Daily Mail. The author is Kamal Sultan and Rebecca English. The headline is, Prince Andrew vows to fight back after Department officially demanded the UK make him available for questioning about his links to pedophile Jeffrey Epstein as part of their ongoing criminal investigation. Can you imagine? Just for a minute, step back and think where we started and where we're at. Look at the progress that has been made. And look at what happens when people come together and they shelve their biases and they shelve their political tribalism and they work together towards a goal. I know it's cliche, but in the overall picture, when it comes to things like this and life in general, we should start worrying about what we do agree with and work from there, what we agree with each other and work out from there. and then get to the things we don't agree with each other later on. But when we work together, look at what happens. Now, of course, he's not indicted yet, nothing like that. But at the end of the day, the whole goal is to get him in front of a judge, to get him in front of a jury, to get him in front of whoever it may be under oath, and to have a trial. There's no running from that anymore for these people. Those days are long gone. The days of them running for the hills and hiding in cubbyholes and using their charitable works as a shield, all of that is finished now. And the reason that it's finished is because you folks out there refuse to give them quarter. You refuse to let them fall back on the same old tired excuses that the legacy media pumped out of their airwaves for years. You folks said enough was enough, and guess what? Enough is finally enough. Prince Andrew will launch an extraordinary public fight back Monday after U.S. authorities made a formal request for him to be quizzed over the Epstein affair. Now, you know he's not going to take this lightly, and you know he's going to get his money's worth from those high-profile lawyers that he hired over in England. So they're going to come out swinging. They know that the best defense is offense here, and they're going to come out and they're going to look to take the narrative, and they're going to look to take the high ground. Unfortunately for them, no matter what strategy they use, the fact of the matter is they have a toxic client. Everything about the man is toxic. The fallout is glowing off of him at this point. He might as well live in the Fukushima reactor. That's how toxic he is. So even his lawyers, these high-profile, hoop-jumping, good old boy lawyers of his, aren't going to be able to win any kind of public relations battle. Their only hope is to win in a courtroom. And with what we've seen so far, the evidence that has been presented so far, he has zero chance for that to occur. In a dramatic twist last night, it emerged that the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a mutual legal assistance request for help to the UK Home Office. These requests are used only in criminal cases under a legal treaty with the UK. So right there, you know this is serious business. You know that this is a criminal matter, and you know that it's coming from the highest levels of government. This isn't some wily prosecutor firing from the hip. This is very calculated. People get together in big rooms for stuff like this, right? This isn't a phone call. So this is a serious situation for Prince Andrew, and this is a serious situation for his lawyers. They better be on their game. Prince Andrew has always categorically denied any wrongdoing over his relationship with billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But the request from U.S. officials mean he could be forced to appear in a UK court as a witness in the case within months. And that'll do. I'll take justice over in the United Kingdom. Look, I have a lot of faith in our brothers and sisters across the pond in the United Kingdom and England, and I have a lot of faith that they'll do the right thing in a situation like this. Not in the government, folks. I don't trust any of the governments in the world, all right? Never mind just the Western world, anywhere in the world at this point. But I have faith that the English people will not let this slide. And if he has to face interrogation in England, then so be it. Whatever the treaty says, whatever the terms of the treaty say, then so be it. But what I will tell you is this: there will be FBI interrogators asking those questions. U.S. officials have previously claimed that Andrew has refused to cooperate with their request to be questioned over Epstein and their investigation into his sex trafficking network. Submitting an MLA is an audacious move to try and force him to answer questions. And yeah, it definitely is. This isn't some flash in the pan kind of scare tactic here. That was the shot fired over the bow when Berman first came out publicly and stated that Andrew should come forward and talk. I think that might have been an olive branch now that we look back in retrospect, that Berman and his office were offering to Andrew to come forward and to do this quietly and the right way. Well, now that this has been submitted, that this MLA has been submitted, the genie is out of the bottle, folks. There's no going back. This is now war between the palace, if they're still involved. You know, they say they're not, but we know they are. And the federal government of the United States. So we are in for quite the tug of war here. We are in for quite the battle. And I'll tell you what, I will tell you what, I am very interested to see how that's going to shake out. Because if the federal government is serious and filing an MLA like this is obviously very serious, then it will be a matter of time before we see more movement here. And it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly this goes now. However, the Mail understands that the prince will make his own dramatic move Monday by hitting back forcefully at claims he has failed to engage with the American investigation. It is understood his team will publish a full account of their dealings with the Department of Justice. Okay, well, let's see it. We've heard from all of these people that are involved with Jeffrey Epstein, Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, Kellen Vickers, etc., that they had nothing to do with it. They don't know Jeffrey Epstein. They weren't very close to him, but none of them have provided any evidence. Not one scintilla of evidence, okay? Nothing. Bupkis. And they've just expected us to believe what they have to say. Oh, just believe us. We're telling you, so it must be the truth. We're rich. We're royalty. We're very powerful. So that means that we should just believe whatever they have to say. So now, the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family is going to publish whatever sort of paperwork he's going to publish to try and make it out that he has really been cooperating behind the scenes the whole time. Meanwhile, we know that's not the case. The Mail has been told that the Duke's legal team is at the end of its tether and has tried to play a straight bat with U.S. officials only to be greeted by leaks and innuendo. They're trying to muckrake. They're trying to throw mud here. They're trying to muddy the waters, muckrake a little bit, and make it seem like the Department of Justice and SDNY is going TMZ with the case. Now, I will give his legal team this. The SDNY leaks like a faucet, folks. There is no secrecy within that office. They leak everything. Just look at what's been going on for the past few years. They need to play things closer to the vest there, but they have a lot of people in that office that have a very close and symbiotic relationship with the legacy media, so you know what happens then. A source close to the Duke's legal team told the Mail last night, legal discussions with the Department of Justice are subject to strict confidentiality rules as set out in their own guidelines. See what they're doing here? Again, legal loopholes. Well, we're not saying Prince Andrew is innocent, but what we are saying is they're not playing by the rules. There's technicalities in this case. The same bullshit we heard from Krista Marks. This is how the legal system in the Western world works. Loopholes, different rules for them than there are for us. We have chosen to abide by both the letter and the spirit of these rules, which is why we have made no comment about anything related to the Department of Justice during the course of this year. We believe in playing a straight bat. No, you don't. You haven't made any comments because anything you say will still make you look like a fool. Receipts, evidence, or bust, homie. Nobody wants to hear this. Nobody believes any of this shit. It is all hyperbole, and just like Eddard Stark would say, words are wind. Let's see some evidence. Let's see some receipts. You have anything to back up these statements? Playing with a straight bat. Shut up. Andrew, 60, is yet to speak to prosecutors in the U.S. despite pledging in his disastrous Newsnight interview in November last year that he would cooperate. The Department of Justice request for mutual legal assistance from the Home Office effectively bypasses a request to Buckingham Palace. So, they did an end around. They didn't even bother going to the royals. They didn't bother going to Buckingham Palace. They didn't bother going to whatever ambassador works with the Buckingham Palace that's working and has a direct line to D.C. None of that. Right to the Home Office, right to the people that can slap the most legal ramifications on Andrew. And I think that's a very shrewd move. And to me, when you know how the Department of Justice and the SDNY handles themselves and conducts business, you know when they do something like this that they're not effing around. It looks to me, folks, like we're entering a whole new phase of this investigation. Now, I'm not going to get too excited about that yet. I'm not going to jump the gun. But it certainly appears that we are entering a new phase of this investigation. It means Andrew could be forced to appear in a British court as a witness within months. One of Epstein's survivors, Virginia Roberts, alleges she had sex with the Duke of York 3 times when she was 17 at the behest of the billionaire pedophile. The prince emphatically denies the allegations. Andrew's relationship with Epstein came under public scrutiny in 2010 when photos emerged of them together in New York. And again, folks, it's not just the relationship. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but some things need to be hammered home. It is not their relationship that is the problem. It is not that they were friends that is the problem. The problem is he is being accused of not only being an enabler, but of partaking in the sex trafficking crimes of Jeffrey Epstein by abusing Virginia Roberts while she was under Jeffrey Epstein's a prison confinement, basically. Okay, it's not just a friendship. By that time, Epstein was a registered sex offender, but the Duke spent a weekend at his £57 million mansion. Yeah, remember he had to go there to break up because he's so honorable. Prince Andrew is such an honorable man that he had to fly to New York to break up with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's what honorable men do, right? The disgraced financier, pedophile, killed himself last August while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, but his survivors want justice against his alleged co-conspirators, including British socialite, definite co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, 58, the daughter of shame media tycoon Robert Maxwell. Lawyers for Miss Maxwell have previously said she denies any wrongdoing. Andrew has categorically denied having any knowledge that Epstein was sexually abusing teenage girls. Miss Roberts alleges she first had sex with Andrew in 2001 when she was 17 after being trafficked by Andrew. She said she was flown on Epstein's private jet to London to meet the Duke, and the pair were photographed together in Miss Maxwell's Belgravia home. Now, you all know that that picture is one of the most telling pieces of evidence within this whole entire sordid affair. She was obviously there. He was obviously all over her. Ghislaine Maxwell was there with a big stupid grin on her face. And Andrew and Epstein was the one taking the picture, according to Virginia. Now, not only that, we have the IT specialist, Mr. Scully, who has come forward now and placed Virginia with Andrew on the island, being groped, being, whatever it is that Andrew was doing to her. So I don't care that he categorically denies any of this or any of that, right? We have a lot of evidence here, folks, and it's time for him to come forward. He wants to play with a straight bat, whatever the hell that means, then come forward. During his Newsnight interview, Andrew said he did not recall ever meeting Miss Roberts. It was claimed last night that the MLA request reported by The Sun was formally lodged by the Department of Justice last month under the terms of a 1994 treaty. If granted, U.S. prosecutors could either ask the Duke to voluntarily attend an interview or give a signed statement. They could also ask Andrew to attend a magistrate's court to provide oral or written evidence on oath. If he refused, the Duke could be forced to attend in person. But Andrew would have the right to plead the Fifth Amendment under the U.S. Constitution and stay silent in order to not incriminate himself. Oh boy, that would be disastrous for the royal family. If this man sits in front of investigators and pleads the Fifth, whoo, boy, that will ignite the fire. Talk about throwing gas on an open flame. Look at how Jeffrey Epstein looked pleading the fifth at the beginning of Filthy Rich. You imagine the video of Andrew at the deposition pleading the fifth about something as heinous as this? The Honorable Andrew pleading the fifth about something like this. Boy, it would be an absolute disaster. The MLA request is not the same as requesting Andrew's extradition. That process could be launched only if he was considered a formal suspect and the FBI believed there was enough evidence to charge him. Home Office sources last night confirmed the request had been made. No decision has yet been made by UK officials. Boy, I can't even imagine if they deny this request. This will light it right up. If they deny this request, it is obvious what's going on here, folks. Nobody on the whole planet could deny that this is a vast cover-up at that point. There is no good reason to deny a request such as this for someone like Andrew who is being credibly accused. It is time for this man to answer some hard questions. Unlike his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Andrew does not have diplomatic immunity from prosecution. However, any evidence provided by Andrew may be held in camera, meaning the session would be private with press and members of the public barred from attending. The Duke would also retain the right to plead the fifth and stay silent. However, legal experts have already warned that any decision to do so could dramatically backfire. Well, I am not a legal expert, but I know what 2 + 2 is, and I'll tell you what, him pleading the fifth would be absolutely disastrous. You know who pleads the fifth? Michael Corleone pleads the fifth, folks, okay? Jeffrey Epstein pleads the fifth. Innocent men defend themselves. While the prince would retain the right to decline to testify under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, the impact on his already diminished reputation would be considerable, and an adverse inference could be drawn against him in the related civil litigations, leading to a possible default judgment. Former federal prosecutor Evan T. Barr wrote in the New York Law Journal last month. Barr suggested Andrew's safest approach is to hunker down in the UK. Yup, that is his best bet. The longer he can avoid answering questions, the longer he can avoid going under oath, that is his best bet. Prince Andrew announced he'd be stepping back from public life after the disastrous interview with BBC's Newsnight in November regarding the decades-long friendship he shared with Epstein and his involvement in the sex trafficking portion of it. I guess I'm going to have to hammer that home just like I did with survivors when everybody was calling them victims. Now, thankfully, people are catching on. They're not victims anymore, they're survivors. And it's the same thing here. It's not a friendship, okay? Andrew was a lot more than just a friend. Andrew was partaking in Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting sex trafficking organization. Point blank, period. That's my opinion. During the interview, Andrew insisted he would cooperate with any U.S. investigation if his legal advice was to do so. However, in January, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jeffrey Berman, criticized Andrew for providing zero cooperation with his probe. Then, in March, Berman said Andrew had since completely shut the door on voluntary cooperation. Representatives for Andrew rebuked the claims, insisting his legal aides had been in regular contact with the prosecutor's office since the beginning of the year. Now, again, folks, I don't have any evidence of this, right? I haven't even read anything hinting at it. But I have one of my gut feelings in this case, that other people are cooperating already and that this investigation is moving a lot quicker than we thought. Who those people might be, I have no idea. Ex-employees, other people involved who are facing long bids, I don't know exactly who. But my gut tells me that other people are talking right now because they know that the second they do not talk, they will be slapped with vicious RICO statutes. And again, that's just my opinion. I don't have any information to share with you or to point out or a source to add to say that that's occurring. But when it comes to something like this and you see them getting this aggressive with an MLA, there is something else going on. This is not happening in a vacuum, and this is not just happening on its own. There is something else cooking Harmon, meanwhile, said his office was considering its options after Andrew's attorneys made it clear he was not willing to submit to an interview. The MLA request was then filed in May. And again, it was played pretty close to the vest, right? Being filed in May. Nobody really heard about it. I hadn't heard anything about the MLA. I really don't have any sources over in England per se. And even in America here, I don't have too many sources close to the legal end of this case. So I hadn't heard anything about this MLA, and I hadn't read about it anywhere else. So they kept it pretty close to the vest. But it is a serious situation for Andrew, folks. I can't stress that enough. Prince Andrew has previously admitted to becoming friends with Jeffrey Epstein in 1999 after being introduced to the financier pedophile through Bill Clinton's gumad, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein was a guest at Maxwell's birthday party at Sandringham's Palace, as well as Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday party at Windsor Castle in 2006, 2 months after a warrant was issued for his arrest for the sexual assault of a minor. How nice is that, huh? Andrew, such a solid guy, such an honorable cat, has Epstein hanging out at his daughter's birthday party. 18th birthday, let's have a sex offender, a guy who likes children, come and hang out. That is a fantastic idea. Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, Father of the Year. Epstein and Andrew were believed to have met on at least 10 other occasions, with the Duke of York even staying over at Epstein's mansion in New York, at his Palm Beach home, and on his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and in New Mexico. What did they do, build forts in the living room? Were they hanging out, watching the King's Speech? We know what they were doing. We know what sick, disgusting, gross-ass members of so-called polite society are up to. They don't get off the way we do. You know, me or you, we go to the casino, throw $100 away. You know, that's exciting, right? We have a wager on a baseball game for a few hunch. Exciting shit. What do you do when you have all the money in the world? Well, we obviously see what they do when they have that sort of money by glimpsing behind the curtain into Jeffrey Epstein's world with all of these sick bastards that are hanging out with him. Roberts claims she was trafficked by Epstein to have sex with Prince Andrew in London in 2001 at Maxwell's home in Mayfair when she was 17 years old. Roberts also alleges that Epstein later paid her to have sex with Andrew at Epstein's New York mansion and claims to have had sex with Prince Andrew and 8 other girls on Epstein's private island in 2002. Think about that for a minute, folks. This is the Queen's son. This is what he's charged with. Not friendship, okay? Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them steal the narrative. It is not friendship. Call a spade a spade. Call it for what it is. Andrew denies the allegations made by Roberts, insisting he has no recollection of ever meeting her. Epstein was convicted for procuring an underage girl for prostitution. Again, impossibility. An underage girl cannot consent to be a prostitute. Therefore, there is no such thing as underage prostitutes. What in the world is wrong with this world? And soliciting a prostitute in Florida in 2008. 2 years after his release from prison, Andrew was pictured entering Epstein's New York mansion in December 2010, where he stayed for 4 days. I'm sure they were just playing Xbox and having hot cocoa. In his interview with Newsnight, Andrew insisted that the sole purpose of the visit was to cut ties with Epstein. The Queen's second son likened the 21,000 square foot mansion to a railway station due to the fact that there were people coming in and out of the house all the time. A railway station, and that's where you'd want to stay, huh? You're the Prince of England, and you could stay anywhere in New York, all those fantastic, lavish lodgings made for people like you, and you chose to stay at a place where people are coming and going at all hours? You don't want your privacy? You don't want secrecy? You don't want to be left alone? It's such BS. This guy's whole story is such BS. Pushed on why he stayed at the home of a convicted sex offender, he said, "Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. So I'll just stay the night at your house for 4 days. I'll just, hang out here and, we'll have our hot cocoa. And, maybe your butler can do some reading to us. Doesn't that sound fun, Jeffrey? We know what these sick bastards were up to. We know what their massages were. I'm saying that with air quotes right now. And we know that Andrew is neck deep involved in all of this shit. This dude is gross. He needs to be indicted. A former model who was once part of Epstein's inner circle claimed in an exclusive interview with the Mail on Sunday earlier this month that the financier, pedophile, had arranged for 3 young women to meet Prince Andrew at the residence during the visit. The women were all in their early 20s, were told to dress up beautifully for the meetings, the source claimed. Jeffrey Epstein, 66, was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell last August while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Well, well, well. Prince Andrew, the Prince of Punk Asses, a.k.a. the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, is now feeling the heat. The walls are starting to close in. His time is coming. And for some reason, folks, I have a sneaking suspicion that he's not having any problem sweating right now. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, we'll be back tomorrow morning and we'll do it all over again. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend.